Dan, hold on.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the right, about 50 feet. Is this on? This is not on, right? It's the basement.
Seriously.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We had some technical difficulties. Is that what you call that? Okay. We just completed executive session, which began at 6 p.m. this evening on June 15th, 2020, here in the Superintendent's office on Gray Street. The purpose of that meeting was to discuss personnel, litigation, miscellaneous, and old business matters. That meeting had been advertised and was compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4, which is also known as Sunshine Law. The matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required, and formal action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a meeting to which the public has been invited. Excuse me. We are ready to now begin the regular public monthly meeting here in the Harrison School Conference Room on June 15th of 2020 at approximately 7:08 p.m. The Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education public conference meeting is compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4, which is also known as Sunshine Law. Notices have been sent to the Progress, Caldwell, New Jersey, the Star Ledger in Newark, New Jersey, Tap Into of West Essex, and notices have also been posted here at the Board of Education Business Office, the Harrison School Building on Gray Street in West Caldwell, and have been delivered to the clerks of both Caldwell and West Caldwell for posting. Brian, can I ask you to take a roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Diambola? Mr. Elko?
Present.
Ms. Getty?
Present.
Ms. Grasso?
Here.
Mr. Cipolleti?
Here.
So we have 4 members present, 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Brian, do we have any communications?
None.
Dr. Conklin, Superintendent's report.
If I can, I'd like to introduce Matthew Courtright. Matthew's here tonight. Sometimes heroes walk among us and we don't even know who they are. They can make outstanding contributions to their schools and communities, even though they are often overlooked under traditional student recognition guidelines. Unsung heroes make their school a better place because of their warm personality, their empathy, and concern for others. Each year, Essex County School Boards Association recognizes a senior from each high school in Essex County who inspired their fellow students as well as their staff in their schools. And that unsung hero this year is Matthew Courtright. Congratulations, Matthew. Mr. Lackey, if you could say a little something about why Matthew earned this award.
The Unsung Hero Award is an opportunity for administrators and school counselors to highlight a student whose remarkable achievements may have gone unnoticed. Because we think Matthew Courtright is an unsung hero who should be celebrated, I thank Dr. Conklin and the Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education for taking the time to recognize him for this award. Mr. Devlin is disappointed that he could not be with you tonight to sing his praises in person, but I will do my best to fill in for him. The Unsung Hero is awarded to a student who may have succeeded academically despite personal challenges, or who models good citizenship, or who shows a quiet strength that inspires others. Matthew is all of these. Despite a health condition that often required lengthy medical therapy sessions before and/or after school and could potentially cause lengthy absences, Matt kept a rigorous course load, maintained a 95.15 GPA, and will attend the Rochester Institute of Technology in the fall, where he will study mechatronics, which I just learned today is a branch of engineering. In addition to his academics, he is involved in several community service projects, has obtained the rank of Eagle Scout, and contributes significantly to the music program at JCHS. On top of all of this, Matt is extremely humble, positive, friendly, and has a sharp and quirky sense of humor. There are many students who face adversity, but Matthew Courtwright's many achievements quietly inspire students and faculty alike. Matt, we are incredibly proud of all that you have accomplished and the impressive young man that you have become. Congratulations.
We're just going to take a 2-minute break. Matthew, if you'd like to take a picture with the Board of Education, we'd like that. We're going to jump to your section. Board President, is it okay if we jump around a little bit? I'd like to.
You're going to jump around a little bit?
No.
I'd love to see. You want to get up on
No,
stage?
no. Those days are long gone.
Okay.
If we could recognize the staff who are retiring and then their milestones as well. So we're going to jump right to that and then come back to the end of the year presentation.
Great.
So if I could have a volunteer to come up and introduce the first person on the list. That would be Miss Madera, I think. Okay.
I have
I have a
good
different
evening,
list.
everybody. I have one teacher who we want to recognize for milestone years of service. He's not able to be here tonight. That's Mr. Jeff Stiefbold. He has completed 35 years of service, all at Lincoln School, all in our upper grades, all with a positive attitude, bringing incredible energy to our building. He's also been a coach in our school district, and he continues to serve our students each and every day. And he's not here, but I'd like to give him a round of applause in his honor. Congratulations, Mr. Stiefbold.
May I just say one quick thing? I'm so sorry to interrupt, but just, and Adams, just to tell, I'm so sad Mr. Stiefbold isn't here tonight. My children go to Washington School, but I just have to share this story, so I hope he hears it, or Scott, you could tell him. My son struggles terribly in math, and when we were in COVID, they had, they had the different teachers every day for subjects. And so one day a week, Anthony had Mr. Stiefbold for math. And he's a big 1980s music fan, my son. He gets it from his father. And they were learning about lines and segments, and Mr. Stiefbold always plays music, which I didn't know, but he played Toe the Line. You know that song, Toe the Line, Love Isn't Always on Time? And Anthony was like, I totally got line segments today, and Mr. Steeple was playing Toe the Line, and that stuck with him, and it stuck with me, and I'm so sad that he's retiring, but I hope he knows he made an impact.
He's not retiring.
Oh, not yet, but I'm sorry. So, sorry, for his years of service, I'm sorry. But for his years, sorry, Mr. Steeple, but for his years of service, like, he has really touched children even outside of Lincoln School, and he makes a difference with his camera at all the games, and he's such a great not only teacher but community member. So I just wanted to just jump in and share that personal story and thank him for his years of service. So just want to give him a
The next milestone we'd like to acknowledge would be Scott Steefbold's 35 years. He and I represent opposite ends of the spectrum. I've served Wilson School for 4 months. He served it for 35 years, although I think I've asked him about 35 years worth of questions in my short time there. But Scott's always incredibly generous with his time to his colleagues and definitely to the students and the community. We're all grateful to have him on our team, and I can't thank you enough. So I'm going to speak on behalf of the Wilson faculty and say thank you, and we're lucky to have you in our building. Thank you, Scott.
I wasn't sure if we were giving everyone the opportunity to come up after. Good evening, everyone. It is my honor to recognize Miss Arlene Zimmerman this evening. Ms. Zimmerman has served as a learning disabilities teacher consultant, an LDTC, for the Caldwell-West Caldwell School District for 15 years. As a valued member of the Child Study Team, she has worked to support students with and without disabilities across our 7 schools, as well as in a number of out-of-district programs. Always with the best interest of students and families in mind and a smile on her face, she has worked to consult with and serve the staff, the teachers, her colleagues, and has always had the best interests of students and families in mind. Ms. Zimmerman has shared that it has been a privilege to work with and to advocate for those students who need a voice in the community, and that she is honored to have worked with professionals in Caldwell-West Caldwell, particularly in the field of special education, who are dedicated to providing a free and appropriate education to all students. Ms. Zimmerman has made a positive difference in the lives of countless students. She has had a lasting impact on our school community, and for that we are grateful. Arlene, on behalf of the Special Services Department and the district, I want to thank you for 15 years of dedication to the students of the Caldwell-West Caldwell School District and congratulate you on your retirement. Best wishes.
Good evening. I'll be speaking tonight on behalf of Tim Ayers, principal of Jefferson School. I'd like to recognize Ms. Leslie Moran. Ms. Moran has served the district for 25 years and has spent the last 4+ years at Jefferson School. During her time at Jefferson, Ms. Moran has been a valued member of the Jefferson staff. Ms. Moran's warm personality and her love for our students was appreciated by everyone who came into contact with her. Ms. Moran also has a wonderful sense of humor. Sometimes her sense of humor would come out in gifts that she would give. Here's a funny example. One day, Mr. Ayers was lamenting about his receding hairline. Months later, he arrived at school to find a bag on his desk. Inside the bag was a huge blonde wig with a note from Leslie. The note read, "This may help." Ms. Moran will be missed, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Teresa Burns, who has been an educator for 22 years. In her recent position as the ESL teacher at Jefferson and Lincoln schools, Ms. Burns not only worked with these wonderful students, but actively served to advocate for their families as well. Her efforts were and are greatly appreciated. Ms. Burns, who is also a formerly enlisted Marine. Currently, Ms. Burns and her husband are working on fixing up their historic home and boat, I learned, and taking on all sorts of restoration projects themselves. On a personal level, Ms. Burns and I have had the opportunity to work together through our ESL program, and her commitment to students, her incredible knowledge base, her tremendous generosity, and her consistent kindness has been such an asset to our district, but also to me personally. You will be so missed by the Jefferson and Lincoln School communities, and we wish you all the best in your retirement.
Good evening. I'm going to recognize 3 retiring teachers tonight from Lincoln School. 2 of them are not present and 1 is. The first is Tracy Skinner, who has worked at Lincoln School for 31 years. Ms. Skinner began her career at a private school, she told me, making a salary of a whopping $12,000. In 1991, she was hired to teach at Jefferson School, and she told me that she felt like she hit the lottery when she got a public school teaching salary. During her first year here, she taught the only section of 3rd grade in the school, which consisted of 28 students, and she shared with me that this remained to be her favorite class that she taught. She transferred to Lincoln School during the middle of her career and welcomed the move because she heard that Lincoln was the best kept secret in the district. After retiring, Ms. Skinner will start a new career working at Cranes Mill Retirement Community here in town. Congratulations to Ms. Skinner. Another teacher retiring from Lincoln School is Mrs. Christina Dunn. Mrs. Dunn has worked with us for 34 years. She began her career in the district in 1985 as a 3rd grade teacher at Washington School. She taught for 3 years there under the guidance of Dr. Girardi, who was the principal at the time. She went on maternity leave for 1 year, where she had the first of her 4 sons. She returned to the district and began working at Lincoln School in a 3-4 combination class under the guidance of Mr. Frank DeSessa. She remained at Lincoln School for the rest of her career. She taught 4th grade for about 20 years and then was moved to 5th grade, where she has taught ever since. During her time in the district, she served on the state committee for over 10 years on the development of the state exams for the ELA tests for grades 3 through 5. She also served on committees in the district for the development of curriculum, in particular in the area of social studies. She received 2 teaching awards. One was for a national award for teaching geography, and this year she was honored with the WDHA Teachers Who Rock Award. Congratulations to Mrs. Dunn. Ms. Doreen Golembeski has also completed a milestone, 30 years of service. Congratulations, Ms. Golembeski. And she will also be retiring. Ms. Golembeski also likes 80s music. Side note. It's true. Ms. Golembeski graduated cum laude from Kutztown University with a bachelor's degree in elementary ed. She was hired in 1992 as a teacher at Washington School, where she taught 3rd grade for 7 years. During that time, she earned her master's degree in education from William Patterson College. After being transferred to Lincoln School, she spent 3 years teaching 3rd grade and completed a postgraduate media specialist certification from William Patterson University. Ms. Golembeski has spent the last 20 years in the Lincoln School Media Center, sharing her love of reading, technology, and design thinking with the many students that have passed through the doors of Lincoln School. Ms. Golombeski coordinated numerous special programs, including Poem in Your Pocket Day, Read Across the Caldwells Week, and a third grade research project that was very popular in our school about mushrooms. She facilitated a program with the Cheshire Home, which is a place for disabled adults to work with our students in various activities that help understand what life is like to live with different disabilities. This program encouraged empathy toward others. She invited Ruby Bridges to speak with our students, which was an incredible event for Lincoln School. Also, one of my favorite memories, Ms. Golombeski competed gracefully in Dancing with the Community Stars, which helped raise money, that's right, which helped raise a lot of money for the Caldwell-West Caldwell Ed Foundation. Congratulations, Ms. Golombeski.
It is my distinct pleasure to speak on behalf of Jeannie Gertie this evening, who's hitting a 40-year milestone and celebrating her retirement. Over the past 40 years, Mrs. Gertie has built strong and lasting relationships within the Washington school community. In this final year of her teaching career, she served her students, families, and colleagues with passion through her last days. In fact, we may have to pry her away from her beloved classroom. That says a lot about her devotion to the profession and to the community. Here are some of Jeannie's words that I'm going to speak, but I ask you to picture her as I read. Consider visualizing her wearing a gold Viking helmet, complete with fur and 2 curved horns, as that is the hat she adorned when she really wanted to make an impression. Mrs. Gertie shared, "I have been very lucky to have worked with numerous inspiring people who have taught me a great deal. I was fortunate to get to know so many Caldwell-West Caldwell families. I have been extremely lucky to have found lifelong friendships amongst my colleagues. Most importantly, I have been very blessed to have been able to teach and be taught by hundreds of children. Teaching has been rewarding, challenging, frustrating, enlightening, fulfilling, great fun, eye-opening, ever-changing, exhausting, and important to me. Teaching children was truly my calling. It was an honor to spend these years here. I hope I have made an impact. Jeannie, you have certainly made a monumental impact. We wish you all the very best and are excited for you to get the chance to devote more time to your husband, your sons, and of course yourself. To many adventures ahead, we wish you the best of luck and congratulations as you embark on your well-deserved retirement.
Good evening, everybody. Before I jump into mine, I also just wanted to congratulate the retirees, many of which I had the pleasure of working with either at James Caldwell High School or through different avenues with our Make a Difference Day. So I appreciate all of you. Congratulations and best of luck to everyone. I'm here tonight to talk about Ileana Aviles, who served 10 years at Grover Cleveland Middle School. Ileana's time spent at Caldwell was a very rewarding and fulfilling experience. She started working for the district at James Caldwell High School on a maternity leave, but developed further as a teacher once she finally made the move to Grover Cleveland Middle School. She was able to implement better classroom management for the younger students after learning how to do so with the older ones. The high school students taught her about discipline and setting expectations, so she went into GCMS with that mindset. She wanted her students to be responsible and hardworking so they can succeed not only now, but later on in their academic lives. The administration, including Mr. Brown and Mr. Chamberlain, was helpful and supportive of her vision for teaching, and she knows she wouldn't have been able to accomplish what she did without their support. She has always believed that if you set high expectations for your students and encourage them to be the best that they could be, that students will rarely disappoint. She felt that she saw this in her students by slowly introducing them to the incredibly immersive Spanish classroom environment. The students were able to thrive and began understanding everything she said in the classroom. She knew that her students were well prepared to begin the next phase of their Spanish learning, whether it be in 7th grade, 8th grade, or beyond. Although I've only had the pleasure of working with Ileana for 2 years, I have always been impressed with how hard she pushes her students and appreciate how much time and energy she put into the World Language Department at GCMS. I wish her the best in whatever the future holds for her in her retirement. Thank you.
Good evening again. I have the privilege of recognizing the retirees from James Caldwell High School this evening. Mrs. Brown. Karen has managed to find that perfect career that has allowed her to share her passion for making the earth a better place. Her leadership of the Environmental Protection Club has created hundreds of environmentally conscious graduates. She spearheaded the recycling program for the high school. She has been the foster mother for countless baby ducks at the JCHS courtyard. Always fashionably dressed, she never had an issue with putting on the boots and gloves to study or clean up the local environment with her students. As an educator, we also want to thank Karen for the time and energy she has put into her instruction these past 19 years. Karen is a proud, intelligent teacher who brings a wealth of resources to her classroom and makes her students think. She also knows the value of stepping out of the classroom and will take her students on short field trips to the stream behind our school or on bus trips to do water quality testing at Goffelbrook Park and the Passaic River. Thank you, Karen, for putting your heart into creating meaningful learning experiences for your students and not just spoon-feeding information to them, but posing questions and encouraging them to grapple with the answers. We will miss you next year, and we wish you all the best in retirement. I need to mention that I'm actually sharing Mr. Devlin's words as well because he couldn't be here tonight. The next honoree is Mr. Jeff Edwards. Mr. Edwards is a legend at Caldwell-West Caldwell. He graduated from JCHS, his children grew up here, and he has taught and coached at JCHS for over 40 years. It is impossible to calculate how many lives he has touched, but Mr. Devlin feels very fortunate that over the past 7 years, he has witnessed the positive impact that you are still having. Mr. Edwards is one of the most popular teachers at JCHS. One only needs to be in his class for a few minutes to understand why. He creates a relaxed yet academic and productive environment. With his dry sense of humor, he disarms his students' apprehension and concern about grappling with difficult math concepts. Although he holds them accountable, he doesn't take himself or the content too seriously. Even if they don't love the subject matter, it is enjoyable to be in his class where everyone seems to be a valued member of his team. His students know that he genuinely cares about each student and that he simply expects them to do their best. As the coordinator of the math department, Jeff has been a leader and a sounding board for many of his colleagues. Mr. Devlin wants you to know that your candid conversations with him about academics have been extremely valuable and enjoyable for him. But more importantly, Jeff is a friend whose smiling face and jokes will be sorely missed next year. Congratulations, Jeff, on your retirement. It is well deserved.
We're going to take a 2-minute break so we can take some pictures with the retirees and congratulate them in person. Good evening, everyone. Again, I want to say congratulations to all the retirees. I did the math. We just watched 269 years of education experience leave the district. So I hope the people that are replacing them are going to be here as long as they were. So congratulations again to their dedication to the profession. We did share the mid-year strategic plan around March, so we wanted to give you an update on where we are in meeting the 5-year goals. So a little review. The strategic plan was developed in the 2021 school year. It included a committee of teachers and parents, community stakeholders, administrators, and Board of Education members. The major component was really developing a mission, vision, and value statement for the school district. And 5 major goals came out of it, really addressing teaching and learning, community equity and inclusion, technology, family engagement, and student wellness. We're going to be reviewing all of those tonight, specifically addressing where we are in the progress towards those 5-year goals and updating where we are in the first year. At the end, we will preview the year 2 goals and discuss a little bit about the metrics and supports for that. I'm going to be turning it over to Ms. Jacobs after I remind everyone that the school district's mission is really to foster, inspire, and champion learning for all. And we have a lot of things that we value in Caldwell-West Caldwell Public Schools, most of all academic excellence, a growth mindset, balance for our students and our faculty, wellness for our students and our faculty, feeling of community, and especially focused in on equity and inclusion. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jacobs, and she'll discuss the first goal, teaching and learning.
Good evening, everybody. This year, we set a goal in grades 1 through 6 in literacy. By June of 2022, we would have 2 parts to our goal. One was an overall reading level goal of having 65% of our students to be on or above grade level in reading. To do that, we also had to create a growth goal. This means we wanted 70% of our students who were below level or approaching grade level to make a 1.5 years worth of growth in reading. So we ended 2021 with 49% of our readers on or above grade level in reading. This June, we have 61% of our readers who are on and above grade level. While we didn't meet our target for the overall number of students reading on grade level, we're really proud because we brought over 100 students in grades 1 through 6 to grade level in reading who weren't before. That means that of all of our 1st through 6th grade students, almost 700 students are on or above grade level in reading. Our 5-year goal was to have 80% of our readers on or above grade level, and we're already, in year 1, almost 1/3 of the way there. I'd like to introduce Adam Gare, principal of Lincoln School.
Thank you. Good evening again. This chart captures the progress for students who began the year reading below grade level. To increase the number of readers on grade level, we needed readers who were below grade level to make more than a year's worth of growth. As you can see in this table, most of our readers who were below level did make accelerated growth. 38% of our readers who were below grade level made 1.5 years worth of growth, and overall, most of our readers did make more than 1 year's worth of growth. Now I'd like to introduce Mrs. Hawkswell from Washington School.
While reading levels give us one piece of information, it's important that we look at additional measures of student learning. The Linkit Benchmark Assessment gives us information about how students perform on answering questions that are standards aligned after reading grade level texts. You can see here that Form A was given at the start of the year. It tests end-of-the-year standards, and the results tell us how students are predicted to fare at the end-of-the-year testing, including how they might perform on Form C and NJ SLA. As you can see, our predicted performance and actual performance was extremely accurate in 3rd and 5th grade. In 4th grade, our students outperformed the expected end-of-year percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards. In other words, 14 more students met grade level standards than was predicted. By looking at these multiple measures, we get a more comprehensive understanding of our students' reading ability and how we can continue to foster learning. I will now turn it over to Frank Lincoln, principal of Wilson School.
Everybody, good to see you here. So I just want to share a few of our elementary success spotlights. In spite of the challenges we face as educators over the past few years, our teachers have really gone all in and met the challenge. We introduced a new assessment tool, that being the Teachers College Running Records, and we use this tool not only to identify reading levels of students, but also to understand individual student strengths and needs. Additionally, all of our teachers learned a new type of small group instruction, that being guided reading. And that using guided reading has enabled our teachers to target those individual needs that have been identified through the running record assessment tool. I'd like to add that most grade levels saw an increase in the percentage of students reading on or above grade level, due in large part to most of our below-level readers making more than 1 year's worth of growth. We're especially proud of our intervention teachers who, because half of our students enrolled in the Rocket Readers program have made 1.5 years worth of growth in about 8 months, which is pretty incredible. Finally, we're here to celebrate what our teachers have been able to do, accomplish, and we plan to continue on with some ambitious goals for our students and teachers. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Elena Jacobs.
So looking ahead, our professional development plan for the 22-23 school year centers around differentiated learning for both students and staff. We'll continue to study and implement strategies that meet the various needs of our readers, using Phonics First, within Rocket Readers, Smart Support, and Smart Summer Academy, to name a few. To differentiate supports for teachers, we've gathered teacher input to create a professional development plan that offers various teacher learning pathways. We have many exciting choices, some of which are listed here on the slide. We're adding additional layers of coaching for literacy, intervention, and enrichment. We receive teacher input for pacing revisions. We're getting more books to meet student needs for the classroom libraries and also in our book rooms. And while we also realize that it's important to do our work in literacy, we also are going to continue to do some work in math. We've created a 5-year math goal, and for next year, our goal is that 100% of teachers in grades K through 5 will attend professional development in content and standards to differentiate instruction and create standards-aligned assessment and pacing calendars. To support this math work, teachers are co-creating pacing calendars with our math consultant, they're writing new math assessments, and they're attending content institutes in math standards and content development. We have filled our full-time STEM coach position to continue to support teachers next school year as well. Turn it over to Elizabeth Fisher, Director of Secondary Education.
Our secondary goal this year was by June of 2022, 100% of our 6th to 12th grades teachers will use standards-aligned assessments to inform their instruction. Our teachers have worked really hard on this during their teacher learning team meetings and reviewing and focusing mostly on our internal assessments, and at the high school focusing on our midterms and finals. Teachers use a shared rubric to identify the standards, their level of rigor, and then submitted them to a shared assessment hub for review and then further access. We also utilize smart structures during the school day and after school to support our students in meeting their learning needs. The high school also utilized PSAT and SAT tutoring to prepare students for those college readiness assessments, and the middle school used varsity tutors to provide additional instruction to our 6th grade students using the guided reading strategy. I would like to introduce John Bertolo to hear a little bit more about the middle school.
Before I jump into our Linkit data, I don't know how many of you caught it on the running record data slide, but our 6th grade ELA had a tremendous improvement this year on their running record score. We inherited 6th graders this year at 30% on or above reading level, and we finished the year at 61%. So again, although we didn't quite meet the 65%, we had a tremendous increase. So that's a credit to our 6th grade ELA teachers. So thank you for all of your hard work, and especially thank you to our 6th graders for putting in the energy and the effort to get us to that level. In terms of Linkit, as what was mentioned prior, Linkit is primarily used as a predictor of where we are in the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And you can see behind me that there's a lot of celebration at the middle school. All 3 grade levels performed better than what was predicted. As you can see, specifically our 7th grade ELA had a very high increase of what they were predicted to do. So again, I just wanted to recognize our 7th grade ELA teachers and kind of the same sentiments as our 6th grade. Thank you for all the hard work you put in. Obviously, the results are showing at GCMS that we're performing well. In terms of math, again, lots of celebration here for the middle school. All grade levels performed higher than what was anticipated or predicted. Although in the beginning of the year, the bar was kind of low for our 8th graders, jumping up 26% is a huge accomplishment for us. And you can see Algebra 1, we started really, really high. We started at 93%, and there was even an increase at that level as well. So again, I'm very proud of everyone. I'm excited to see what the future holds for us, specifically in math, as we bring in a new math coordinator or supervisor, and also as we continue utilizing our Big Ideas book series. I'm just looking forward to seeing where we go from here. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Blackman, who's going to talk about James Caldwell High School.
This information is about ELA Linkit scores. We are using our teachers to take this information to look a little bit deeper to see exactly who the students are that met or exceeded the projected end-of-year proficiency, and also those students that did not meet the projected growth to examine some trends. Additionally, we will examine the data from other assessments given this year, such as NJSLA for our 9th graders, NJGPA for our 11th graders, PSAT for our grades 9 through 11, and midterms and final exams for all of our students, to determine baselines that we will use to measure growth towards our 2022-26 goals. This next slide will show our math Linkit information. Again, we will examine these results alongside the NJGPA, which again is the 11th grade test that our students took in March. We're anticipating those results to arrive soon. And the NJSLA, those results will arrive in the fall for us to see how they correlate. Our next steps. We're working to improve these scores with the support of a newly hired math consultant. With her support, we will be able to examine these scores in greater depth to determine the skills and standards to stress so we can address them in daily instruction. Our math teachers will also be attending a Math Curriculum Institute to explore our new textbook series, Big Ideas, that aligns with the current middle school program. With the recent implementation of the elementary and middle school math programs, we anticipate students entering the high school with a solid math foundation to approach the increasingly rigorous standards. As I stated earlier, we will examine the data from the various assessments given this year, Linkit, NJSLA, NJGPA, PSAT, midterms and final exams, to determine baselines that we'll use to measure growth towards the 2022-26 goals. We're excited to provide various pathways for professional development next year, where teachers will have the choice to participate in over 10 pathways based on their interests and their needs. And I will now turn it over to my colleague, Elizabeth Fisher.
Our focus for community equity inclusion was providing professional learning opportunities for all of our staff. We provided developmentally appropriate resources for teachers to use with students to acknowledge our monthly inclusion spotlights, ranging from June's Pride recognition to the celebration of Women's History Month. We also continued our partnership with Confianza to support our ESL teachers, and through their coaching, they developed and presented workshops to support all our teachers in working with English language learners. Those presentations were done at our growth conference, where we had over 18 sessions focused on inclusion, ranging from co-teaching strategies to supporting students with ADHD. We are excited to continue that learning next year through our TLT pathways that Ms. Jacobs mentioned, where teachers can choose to learn more about how to make their classroom environments more inclusive for all students. We will also begin this summer the process of developing a comprehensive equity plan with a committee of administrators, teachers, parents, and students to determine our next steps as a district to continue this important work. We'll move on to our tech goal with my colleague, Uchan Miku.
Good evening. Our strategic goal for this year was the implementation of the one-to-one program across the district, as well as providing the infrastructure to support the instructional technology used by teachers and students every day. I am pleased to report that this goal was achieved. With the end of the school year in sight, we devised a plan to collect the devices of the graduating seniors at the high school and the current 8th graders at the middle school. These devices will be rolled over to the new 9th graders and the incoming 6th graders for next year. All other high school and middle school students will keep their assigned devices over the summer to use for the school-related activities and bring them back in September. The devices will be secured during the summer the same way as they were secured during the school year. New Promethean active panels have been introduced in every school to enhance and differentiate instruction. These panels help teachers bring lessons to life with rich, powerful activities that grab students' attention, blending real-time assessment and real-world experience into the learning process. The panels are mobile and can be used in any classroom. The technology integrates with the district Google platform, and training was provided to teachers in every building. Over the summer, additional panels will be added to elementary schools. As reported back in March, 400 new iPads have been purchased and will be provisioned over the summer to be used primarily at the elementary level, where they will replace older devices and supplement the number of iPads in every school. For this task, the district is leveraging an investment it made in the Microsoft 365, an enterprise-grade level productivity management security suite, to not only manage and support our Windows devices, but also to centralize and manage all of the iPads, thus making the deployment and configuration of these devices faster and more consistent. I'm now turning it over to Dr. Conklin.
I'm providing an update on the family engagement goal. It's by June of 2022, engagement with all families, including non-English speaking families, will improve as evidenced by increased responses to district surveys. So I, again, appreciate everyone's response to the surveys and their active participation in everything that is being sent out either by the district or the schools. One of the major goals was making sure we're consistent and coherent in our communication, and we've done that through district-wide and school-based communication strategies in terms of email and social media. We do have access to Google Translate, and we've adopted Lexikey, which allows real-time translation for parents who are English language speakers, or not English language speakers. We do have other means if you can't access email, or if you can't access social media, we do provide you hard copies. You just have to ask the principal, and they'll make sure they'll make those available to you. And then we do have a lot of community collaboration with, again, I said with the ongoing surveys. We have several other community-based committees and opportunities for communication in terms of the Special Education Parent Advisory Group, the community connections, activities that we do throughout the district, and presentations that are offered. And also, Link It is going to be the parent portal in the upcoming school year. So then parents will be able to access real-time Link It scores right through the parent portal. So I will turn it over to Ms. Madeira, who will discuss student wellness.
Thank you, Dr. Conklin, and good evening, everyone, again. I'm pleased to report out on the district's strategic goal around student wellness. Our goal this school year was that by June 2022, the number of secondary students who agree or strongly agree with survey statements related to social, emotional, and physical health will increase by 10%. It's important to note that this goal was addressed separately at the middle and high school levels to specifically target the needs of students grades 6 through 8 and grades 9 through 12. A priority for this goal was to establish structures to further support students and to continue to communicate progress to families. At both the middle school and high school, school counselors have worked collaboratively with administration to develop surveys and administer them to students. The information gathered was used at the respective schools to inform decisions related to best supporting student wellness. Actions taken by staff at GCMS and James Caldwell High School are outlined on this slide, and they have included forming wellness committees in response to survey results. School counselors have met with students on a regular basis, at least once at the middle school, at least twice at the high school, and often individually with students as needed to address challenges and provide strategies. Improvements have been made in terms of communication with families. At GCMS, this was via the principal's weekly update, through quarterly newsletters, social media, and guidance notes. At James Caldwell High School, the school counseling department has their website where they regularly communicate with families. The principal has a weekly update. Information is shared via SMORE, and an interactive newsletter or flyer is sent from the student assistance coordinator at the high school. Additional actions taken by the staff at James Caldwell High School have included providing a common lunch. This time is designed for students to have access to their counselors for any type of support. Recently, they held a college day where recent graduates returned to serve on an alumni panel. Juniors and seniors were given the opportunity to ask questions about transitioning to college and were provided with advice related to how to effectively manage their time and stress. Both schools created and administered student surveys aligned to district values at the beginning, middle, and the end of the school year. The final surveys were administered to students just last week and this week. The results of the surveys, progress toward the wellness goal, and next steps for the 22-23 school year are projected to be shared at a board meeting in August. In addition to directly supporting students, the district worked to support the families and the educators who directly support our students. This slide highlights some of the ways the district extended this support. In April, a growth conference was held for teachers and staff. From January through June, several virtual presentations were provided through our Community Connection series. And over the course of the school year, various presentations were provided through our Special Education Parent Advisory Group. The district worked to provide a multitude, well over 20, opportunities of professional development and community support through these avenues, and just a few of them are highlighted on this slide tonight. All of these were very well received sessions, and they're outlined here. I'm going to just share a few of them as noted on the slide. So in our growth conference for staff, some examples are tips and strategies for dealing with students' exposure to traumatic events through the media. That was offered to staff. Best practices for a safe and supportive learning environment was also offered. Through our Community Connection series, parents attended different workshops. 3 here noted are Parenting Anxious Kids, Screen Time and Social Media, Tips and Best Practices for Today's Parents, Tips for Supporting Your Child's Behavior. Through the CPAG, some of the presentations that were offered and well attended were Coping with Transitional Stress, Caring for the Caregiver, how to use effective behavioral strategies in your home, and a number of presentations through NJCIE, which is New Jersey Coalition for Inclusive Education. They talked a lot about inclusive practices and the things that we can do to improve those inclusive practices both in our community and in our classrooms. Now I am going to turn it back over to Dr. Conklin.
So obviously the writing on the screen is very small, so it's hard to see. All of this is going to be posted on the website, so once we finalize all the information and collect the data, it'll be posted on the website, and it will be updated in August once we have the final surveys from the high school. But we do have 5 additional goals, 1 in teaching and learning, 1 in community equity and inclusion, 1 in technology, 1 in family engagement, and 1 in student wellness. And each of these goals build on each other for the next 5 years. So if you give us a minute, we're going to turn the podium around, and if anybody has any questions about the presentation, we'll invite everyone up to ask questions. If we could take a 1-minute break while we configure everything. Thank you so much. So we could turn it around. Thanks. anybody has any questions about the presentation, again, it'll be posted online. So you have a question about the presentation?
Hello. I'm Linda Gurman. I am a Wilson School parent, and I will confess I'm very unfamiliar with a lot of this stuff because my oldest is in Wilson, so I'm a long way from a lot of the testing and things that are measured here. But I have some questions to maybe gauge or give a little more context to some of these statistics. Do we have any idea how any of our success rates in math and English, like specifically at the high school level, compare to other parts of the state or the state average or anything like that? Because all of this is helpful and it's showing the growth within our district, but I would say it'd be nice if we could get some information about where we are in comparison to other districts or other parts of the state or the county or something like that.
So we'll have a clearer picture of that after this school year. Okay. There hasn't really been the statewide assessments completed over the past few years, so there's no direct correlation to that. But when we do administer the Linkit, those standards are utilized across the state. So the Linkit scores are compared to the standards, so that's in comparison to generally how students perform against the standard, and then we'll know comparison to other school districts that are similar to us once all the scores are in from the NJSLA assessment that was just administered in the fall. They haven't really been administered over the past few years, so there's no real way to look back over the past few years.
Okay. So, I mean, and that's the other part of it too. There's a little bit of a, I guess, pandemic factor here also, because a lot of stuff was suspended for a while, right? Okay. See, I'm not familiar, so I don't know. So that's why I asked.
Well, that's why we try to use multiple measures, so we just don't rely on the NJSLA or so we try to use multiple measures of assessment. Classroom teachers, formal, informal assessments. This is just one measure of those assessments and how students are performing against the standard.
Okay. And then I have one more question just specific to, I think, some of the numbers for math performance for the high school, because those numbers looked very low. Is that the percentage of students who were not doing well and their growth, or was that because there was like a number, there was a slide up there showing math success, and a lot of the numbers were like single digits to like the teens for them meeting or exceeding the standard in math in 9th, 10th, 11th grade.
So that is how students perform against the standard on that particular assessment.
Okay.
So those are low scores, yes.
Okay.
And we're looking into the rationale for that. Some of it could be that the curriculum isn't directly in line with the standard. Some of it, our assessments aren't in line with the standard. That's why we hired the math consultant supervisor to help us explore why we're getting those scores on that particular assessment. Again, that's one assessment. When we look at the NJSLA, those scores could be up higher, the GPA test or the SAT scores. That's why we don't just take that one score and say that's the number we expect. That's just a predictor of how those students would perform. We want to make sure there's a correlation between all those assessments.
Okay.
And examining the curriculum, the pacing guide, there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing this summer and through next year to move those scores in a positive direction.
Okay. All right, so, but there might be a more comprehensive picture maybe at the end of the calendar year, or still it's all part of the 5-year plan? Really,
so it's all part of the 5-year plan, but each year we report out on the goals. So next year, again, we'll report out on the goals over three times, at the beginning of the year, at the middle of the year, at the end of the year, specifically addressing language arts goals, math goals, and different goals. So you'll get a better picture of those. Obviously, it's different children, so right. the numbers might be different, but the idea is the same. In Algebra 1, in Geometry, in Algebra 2, that we're really looking to look at the curriculum, make sure it's in line with the standards, make sure our assessments are in line with the standards, and we're administering multiple measures to see how students are performing against those standards.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I would just add that this 5-year plan kicked off with the district investing in some professionals to come in and comb through data and kind of target these goals. So while the last few years there's obviously not useful data, right, or unflawed data,
right.
The goals have been kind of honed based on some pre-pandemic data to kind of focus on where we think we might need some improvement. And I think what Dr. Conklin was saying is that we'll have comp set data for other districts, hopefully by the fall, Dr. Conklin?
We do have some now, but it's hard to just look at that one measure. So once the NJSLA scores are in, probably at the end of August, early September, we'll have a better understanding of how we're performing necessarily against districts that are in our similar category.
And so the goals that are part of the 5-year plan, but for the start of next year will be at one of the Board of Ed meetings in September.
Right, so everything's on there, and then each school develops their own goals based on how students are performing. That's why we have all these multiple measures. So each school will have their own separate goals that are married to the district-wide goals.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No other questions? Thank you so much for your presentation, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And now we're going to move to approval of minutes, approval of the special public meeting minutes, public conference meeting minutes, and the executive session meeting minutes of May 2nd of 2022, and the regular public monthly meeting minutes and the executive session minutes of May 9th of 2022.
Make a motion to approve those minutes
I'll
as
second.
outlined.
Any questions? If not, Brian, take a vote.
Mr. Elko,
Yes.
Ms. Getty,
Yes.
Ms. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cipolleti.
Yes.
4-0, motion carried.
Thank you, Brian. Now we're going to move to public comments on agenda items and agenda items only at this time, please. Public participation shall be governed by the following. Participant must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and address. Statements are to be limited to 3 minutes duration and may only address items on the agenda at this time. Participants may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. If there are any questions on the agenda, please come up to the podium. Okay, so we're going to just move into committee reports, and I believe we have one tonight. Mr. Elko?
Yes. And at the risk of being booed off the podium, I would note that it should be Roman numeral 9 by curriculum and technology and not A, but I doubt anybody cares about that. So, reporting on the June 2nd, I'm very popular in the private session. Reporting on the June 2nd, 2022 Finance and Facility Committee meetings, and that's important. I'd like to keep that in mind that this is a June 2nd meeting. The committee members present were myself, Paula Getty, Dr. Conklin, the superintendent, Ms. Jones, the assistant superintendent, and Brian McCarthy, the business administrator. And I would note that for the folks who come and listen to board meetings to try to find out what's going on, these committee reports are really your best insight into what's happening. Chris Dembola and Juliana gave a great report on the curriculum and technology committee last meeting. And in this meeting we talk, and then here I'm going to report on what we're spending our money on and how our facilities are being used. That's really a good insight into what we're working on day to day to try to improve the district. So that being said, first we looked at the architecture plans for the continued development of the Harrison School Building, the school building. It's a project a little over $1 million, and with the district's leadership and Dr. Conklin's leadership, the majority of that is going to be covered by federal and state funds, and the remainder of that is going to be covered by reserve accounts. So what that means is, when we're done, this school will have more classrooms than Lincoln and I believe Jefferson has, and that will be completed at no cost to the taxpayer because of the financial solvency and planning of the district. Also, to that point, the district is looking at creating additional reserve funds that we can use to help us continue to improve our facilities. Our buildings are classic, which is another word for old, and if we don't start planning to improve them, we're going to find ourselves in a tough situation. So we are actively looking for ways to take the money and put it and earmark it so we're prepared to make the improvements that we need to make. I'm going to talk about a few of those improvements later on. And the reason June 2nd is important is because in that June 2nd meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about the safety and security of our school district. This was before the recent incident that we had at the middle school, and long before that had happened, we'd already solicited several quotes to do a top-to-bottom analysis of all of our doors and locks and security access to the buildings. And we'd also done a top-to-bottom review of all the camera systems that we have in the schools. So this is a constant process, and even when it's not in the public eye, the district's constantly just testing for weak points and trying to find where we can improve our various facilities and our security points. And also, we're going to be investing in 4 new vans. We lost a couple of vans during Hurricane Ida. Back in the good old days, when I was sitting in those seats, I remember the district made a very specific decision to kind of bring transportation in-house. And that was a wise decision, because you can imagine now how difficult it would be to try to deal with third-party staffing for buses and vans and everything else. So that was a good job by the district. We continue to profit from that, literally. You know, we have other districts who pay us money because we have the buses and we have the personnel to provide that service. So investing in those 4 buses is, again, a long-term, I would say, savings, hopefully, for the district. Last meeting we had, one parent, and I don't see him here today, specifically was asking how we're improving the district in ways that don't relate to athletics. And I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate our baseball team for a fantastic season. They also I think they'll be receiving rings at some point too. But we have been spending a lot of time and energy in these other areas. For example, you saw it on the board, we started a pilot program for Promethean boards, which are large, interactive, kind of big old touch screens, and they're very intuitive to use. Joanne and I both were at Make a Difference Day at the middle school, and one of the questions I asked the students was, what do you think, what's good, what's bad? And those students, unprompted, mentioned the Promethean boards and how they were beneficial and they enjoyed using them. So you saw we've invested in 31 new Promethean boards, and we're beginning to kind of cycle them out so they can get into circulation and be used. You also saw that we invested in 400 new iPads that'll be hitting the elementary schools next year to try to pursue a real one-to-one initiative. This is all great stuff that's happening, but it kind of happens behind the scenes. It's not, always out in front, so it's good to talk about. We've also enlisted a consultant to help us with the sound system at the auditorium at the high school. If you've been to the high school, and I hope you have, you've seen a couple great performances. And Matilda was fantastic. I was blown away by oh my goodness, the Shrek, yes. It's playing in the back of my minivan 24/7, I don't know how I missed that. I thought there was one dwarf at the end who could have used a little work, for those of you who saw the show, but the sound can be a little dodgy sometimes. And we've brought in somebody who can kind of take a look at this and really pull it apart and tell us how we can improve and how we can invest. And again, that's where those reserve funds come into play, so we can spend the money to fix up the district. We've also started looking at whether there's a way for us to improve the grounds at Wilson School, which can be soggy sometimes if you're from around there. And are there some cheap ways for us to improve that without creating a flood risk to the surrounding areas and surrounding neighborhoods? And finally, for the folks who have kids who are, play lacrosse, softball, baseball, whatever the case may be, we had extended discussions on how we can improve bathroom access at all the various fields in the district. Whether that means porta-johns or whether that means some kind of access through the school, we're looking at that. Access through the school is more difficult. It increases liability, right? Risk factors, opening the school up to people. But certainly a porta-john, while it's nobody's favorite option, is better than nothing when you have a 4-year-old playing t-ball. So that's something that the district has not decided on, but has started to reach out and try to find out what the costing on that would be. And that is the summary of the June 2nd Finance Facilities meeting.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Elko. Now we're going to move into committees, curriculum and technology.
Sure. The superintendent makes the following recommendations to the Board of Education. Motion to approve item numbers 1 through 13 on this evening's agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Brian, can I ask you to take a roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Elko?
Yes.
Ms. Getty?
Yes.
Ms. Grasso?
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti?
Yes.
It's 4-0, motion carried.
Personnel?
Thank you, Mr. Cipoletti. I make a motion to approve certificated staff item letters A through I. Or is that L? Excuse me just a moment. Actually, it's through L. A through L, and non-certificated staff item letters A through I on this evening's agenda under personnel.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Brian, can I ask you to take the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Elko.
Yes.
Ms. Getty.
Yes.
Ms. Grasso.
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti.
Yes.
4-0, motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Elko, Finance and Facilities.
Yeah, motion to approve items number 1 through 9 on the evening's agenda under finance, and also items numbers 1 and 2 under facilities.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Brian, may I ask you to take the roll, please?
Mr. Elko.
Yes.
Ms. Getty.
Yes.
Ms. Grasso.
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti.
Yes.
4-0, motion carried.
And Ms. Getty on policy.
Thank you, Mr. Cipoletti. I make a motion to approve item numbers 1 and 2 on this evening's agenda under policy.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Brian, please take the roll.
Mr. Elko.
Yes.
Ms. Getty.
Yes.
Ms. Grasso.
Yes.
Mr. Cipoletti.
Yes.
4-0, motion carried.
Thanks, Brian. And now we're going to move into public comments. Public comments. Before this, as Mr. Elko mentioned, the baseball team, we'd like to just formally recognize them. For the 2022 Caldwell baseball program, had a fantastic year, winning 24 games while only losing 8. The team was led by seniors Nick Bergamato, Gil Pryal, Michael Scaglione, Nick McNish, Ryan Peeney, Matt Paris, Jude Bazerman, Dante Homan, and Ty Vestola, who also won the Super Essex Conference Liberty Division title for the second year in a row. They had a record of 11-1 in division play. The year was capped off with an exhilarating state sectional title run through the North B Group 2 section of the state, with wins over Dover by a score of 10-1, Madison by 3-0, and Ridgefield Park by 9-3. Caldwell was set to face Hanover Park on a gorgeous Friday afternoon at Caldwell, but we faced off against the defending 2021 North 2 Group 2 champions on our home field. We were able to put together a total team effort to come away victorious and become the 2022 North 2 Group 2 champions. This year, our program had 3 goals, and we achieved all 3 of them. Those goals were to win the SEC Liberty Division, to win 20-plus games, and to win the state sectional title. This group of kids were very special and have cemented their legacy in the Caldwell baseball program forever. That's a quote written down by Coach Smith. So congratulations to the baseball team once again.
We're going to actually be inviting them to the June 27th to recognize the whole team. So they'll be invited to the June 27th evening.
Thank you, Dr. Conklin. And again, just to reiterate, we do have 3 meetings this month, so our next meeting will be on the 27th.
June 27th.
June 27th. Okay, now we're going to move into public comments. Public comments shall be governed by the following. Participant must be recognized by the presiding officer and must preface their comments by an announcement of their name and address. Statements are to be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Participants may speak no more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard, and all statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. If anyone has any questions or comments, please come up to the podium at this time.
Hi, Sue Callahan, English coordinator at James Caldwell High School. I'm here to represent and announce that you guys just voted on the curriculum, the One Book, One School that we are going to launch for this year. I left copies up on there for you. This year we're going to read a book. The whole school will read the book. I don't know if everyone is aware of what we do, but every student at the high school reads the same book over the summer. This book is called How to Be a Good Creature. It's written by naturalist Cy Montgomery, and she's scheduled to come to the high school to meet with students on September 19th. So we will have 2 assemblies. So we're very excited that COVID now is sort of over. I don't know if I should say that, but knock on wood. But anyway, we're able to have an author return, come into the school. We've had other authors. It's always been a great day at the high school, so we're happy to announce that today. Thank you.
Board President, could I just mention, like any great English teacher, she's giving us summer reading. So each one of those books is for one of the board members and myself and the business administrator. So thank you, Sue, for giving us the books and the summer reading.
Now I have something to read on the beach.
Thank you, Sue. Any other questions or comments? Yep. Oh, good. Thank you.
We'll take one.
Park Ave. I was at the last meeting. I just wanted to follow up on some stuff. You know, with the threat and all that stuff that happened. Things went well, so I'm very happy about that. I wanted to thank everybody for what was taken care of. I'm not sure. I heard that there were a lot of police on site. My kids said to me that they attended classes, and the things that we were hearing last time that weren't done seem to have been done this time. So he was aware of that. So I at least wanted to say that. The one thing I did hear, you brought up the cameras, and I remember, Mr. Bertolo, I thought you said, I'm Sam's dad. Something about that there was a fuzzy picture, didn't know the person with the graffiti. I just would like some follow-up on that, where I would hear that those cameras are functioning. So if this did happen, that you guys could figure it out more quickly. There's a lot of information that happens at this meeting, and I'm sure a lot on the website. So it's hard to see, so I would just appreciate some clarity with that. Just to know in the future that that's being done, just so it could help. The other thing was a little bit of a sensitive subject, since I know there's this thing of the graffiti, there's this thing of the threat, and it's all very vague. But there is somebody who's involved in it. And I guess last time we spoke that person was going to be back in school in September. I was curious if there's any criteria at which that person has to meet, if anything's being done. This is sensitive, so I don't want to say anything about it, like therapy or whatever, I don't know, before this person comes back to school in September. So that's my understanding of it. If I don't understand it, I'm asking what the criteria is. Like a suspension, somebody does something wrong, you know, either there's 2-week suspension, okay, we think you did it, you come back, you talk to the principal. Back in my day, it wasn't so easy, but you know, what's being done now? What does that look like? Because I think that's not really known.
There isn't much I can share specifically about any one particular student. I can talk in generalities what the process is.
Well, how about just this incident? I don't care about who the
I
kid
can't
is.
discuss this incident. It involves a particular student. I can discuss generalities. I can't discuss confidential, privileged information.
Something, or graffiti or something that's
right.
hate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can talk in generalities.
Yeah.
Depending on, it really depends on the nature and severity of the threat. Students can be expelled from school. Doesn't mean that they're expelled from attending a school. It means they're expelled from the school that they would typically attend. The district is still required to provide educational services for students from the age of 6 to 18 or 3 to 21 if they receive special education services. So even though they may not attend the school that they're assigned or their home school, they may attend another school. If they're have special education needs or even general education needs, they would attend an alternative setting. That would be up to the board to make that determination on an expulsion. That's one process. There are several other processes under special education where a student may be placed in an alternative setting, or if a student has drugs in school or does serious bodily harm or brings a weapon to school, they could be immediately put out for a minimum of 45 days to an interim alternative placement. There's a lot of different rules and regulations that the district has to follow in terms of where a student attends school. Ultimately, the district is responsible for providing that education for students, whether it's their home school or someplace else. So each individual case has to be measured on its severity and its impact on the day-to-day operation of the school. I can't really speak specifically about this one, but that's the process the school has to go through for every student. They have their due process right.
Mm-hmm. So with this scenario, let's call it this scenario, will there be any information? I know this is sensitive, but you got to understand on this side of the fence, it's sensitive too to us. And I'm being asked, I'll be honest, I want to be home, but my wife keeps telling me, go and speak, so I go and speak. But the truth is I think everybody wants to know that something's being done. I know that, September, it's just going to be as usual. Is anything else going to be released about it so that?
Again, I can't share information about specific students, so I can't really share that.
Okay.
I apologize. I just can't share it.
Just trying to brain up some.
I understand.
Yeah, I don't really know another question about it because I don't understand. If it's a suspension, it should be somewhere like this is what the criteria is, this is how long it goes out, this is what they have to.
Well, there's a student code of conduct that we follow.
Yeah.
In these specific instances, this is somewhat connected to that, but in some ways beyond that. So each individual instance has to be measured against itself, the student, danger to himself or others, not this particular instance in general, or danger to the school, or the major disruption to the school. All that's taken into account when a decision is made about any discipline for any student.
It's just this is a threat, so it's different to us. But I get what you're saying. I think what I'm just asking is, I assume you're reviewing this over the summer, and it's a fluid situation, so you're going to be looking at it. You don't really know how it's going to end up or what it's going to look like.
We constantly look at it, and any situation, there's also, it depends on, and again, not this particular situation, students have due process rights. So if they feel that they were wrong, there's a process. They would go to an administrative law judge, and that administrative law judge would make a ruling on where the student would necessarily go. If the district disagrees and the parent wants something that the district disagrees with, there would be a legal battle over that. And then the court would make a determination on where that student goes while that battle goes on. I've been involved in cases that last 3 years. So, these situations can get that significant.
Yeah, it just makes parents nervous, that's all.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, but thank you.
Scott Stiefbold, I'm educator at Wilson School. Just 3 thank yous. First, thank you for taking the time to honor the retirees tonight who've given their service to our school district. Certainly well deserved, and thank you for that. Special thanks for hiring Frank Lincoln as the principal of Wilson School. Looking back only, yeah, of course. Thinking back not that many months ago, there were plenty of parents, teachers, and children who were unsure of how our school will be led, and now those same group of people are enthusiastic for what is to come under his guidance and leadership. So thank you very much, and thank you, Frank. Special thanks for approving the induction of Mike Teshkoy and Mark Teshkoy into the James Caldwell High School Legends Park. Those 2 men greatly had a positive influence on the countless athletes under their leadership and guidance as well on the athletic field, the basketball court for Mike at times, and also in their classrooms. Sorry Mark isn't here, but it's quite reassuring, and it's nice to know that both of those 2 men will never be forgotten for what they've given to our district. So I thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments?
Before we end, I just want to acknowledge Mrs. Jenna Hawkswell, who's here tonight. Mrs. Hawkswell, for the short time that she was in our district, made a very valuable and meaningful impact. Being a parent at Washington School, I can tell you that her smiling face, her warmth, during COVID, she was out all the time amongst the children. I have a very sensitive 8-year-old, but when he met Mrs. Hawkswell, he was a very scared, uncertain 7-year-old at the first grade door. And when he was asked in first grade to write about his favorite person in Washington School after only 3 months, he said, "My favorite person is Mrs. Hawkswell because she knows my name and she always smiles." So I feel so heartbroken that you're leaving us, but I wish you the best. I know you have to make the right decisions for your family, being a young mother as well. But I just wanted to just say I don't want you to leave here without knowing that our hearts are broken, but they go with you, and best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you for everything.
And it's seconded by the remaining board. Any other questions or comments? If not, we are going to move into executive session. The purpose of that meeting is to discuss personnel, litigation, miscellaneous, and old business matters. That meeting has been advertised and is compliant with the Open Public Meeting Act and NJSA 10:4, which is also known as the Sunshine Law. The matters discussed will be made public when confidentiality is no longer required. Informal action pursuant to said discussions shall take place only at a meeting to which the public has been invited. Do I have a motion to enter executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
Second.
The motion has been made by Ms. Grosso and seconded by Ms. Getty. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Caldwell-West Caldwell Board of Education shall enter executive session at approximately 8:36 p.m. Brian, can I ask you to take the vote?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nays? Against? Abstentions? Motion carried.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.